What if the greatest scam ever pulled wasn't by a con artist on a street corner or a CEO in a boardroom, but by religion itself? Think about it. Every scam has the same formula: create fear, sell the cure, and make sure the customer keeps paying. But religion takes this blueprint and scales it up beyond anything else in human history. It doesn't just fool a handful of victims, it captures entire civilizations. And here's the catch. Unlike a street hustler who disappears after taking your money, religion builds entire institutions, cathedrals, hierarchies, tax shelters, so the scam can outlive the people who started it. We're talking not years, not decades, but thousands of years. In this video, we're pulling back the curtain. You'll see how religion sells the one product no one can ever test: eternal life. You'll see why its promises always come after you die, when no one can call for a refund. And you'll see how it keeps believers loyal, not by proof, but by fear, spectacle, and identity. And the most shocking part? The people caught in the scam don't just protect it, they defend it for free. The product you can't test. Every scam begins with a product. Sometimes it's snake oil, sometimes it's a fake investment, sometimes it's a miracle cure. But in religion's case, the product is something far more powerful and far more dangerous. It sells you the afterlife, eternal salvation, cosmic justice, a reunion with loved ones who've passed. Sounds amazing, right? Except there's one catch. You can't test it. You can't hold it in your hand, you can't measure it, and you definitely can't return it if it doesn't deliver. It's like buying a ticket to a show that doesn't start until after you die. No reviews, no refunds, just trust. And when you ask for evidence, the answer is always the same: have faith. Think about it. If any other business tried this, you'd laugh them out of the room. Imagine a car salesman saying, "Pay now, and your car will appear in heaven after you die." You'd call it insane. But when religion makes the same pitch, billions line up to pay because the marketing is wrapped in sacred language, tradition, and fear. That's the genius of the scam. By moving the product outside the reach of evidence, religion makes itself bulletproof. A medicine that doesn't work gets exposed. A get-rich-quick scheme collapses when the money dries up. But a promise that starts only after death? That's untouchable. And here's the kicker. Fear is what makes people buy in. And fear is exactly where we're headed next. The hook. Fear and the exclusive cure. Every con needs a hook. For religion, that hook is fear. The fear of death, the fear of eternal punishment, the fear that without divine protection, you're nothing but a tiny, meaningless speck in a cold, indifferent universe. It's the most primal anxiety humans carry, and religion knows exactly how to weaponize it. But here's the clever part. Fear alone doesn't close the deal. Every scammer knows you can't just scare people. You have to offer the only solution. That's where religion's exclusivity comes in. It doesn't say, "Don't worry, any path will do." No, it insists that only this God, in this specific faith, through these exact rituals can save you. Everyone else is doomed. This tactic is identical to a street hustler inventing a problem, then selling you the only cure. A shady repairman tells you your roof is about to collapse, but luckily, he's the only one who can fix it. Religion takes that same formula and stretches it across eternity. And once you accept the problem and the exclusive cure, you're locked in. Because now, to even question the faith feels like gambling with your soul. Who dares take that risk? But here's the twist. Fear and exclusivity are just the bait. The real trap is in how religion keeps you paying. And it's not through one-time transactions, it's through devotion disguised as duty. Money disguised as devotion. Once fear has you hooked, the next step is simple: turn devotion into revenue. But religion is too smart to call it a payment. That would make it look like a transaction. Instead, it rebrands money as faith. Tithes, offerings, donations, sowing a seed, whatever the label, it's the same mechanism. Give money, prove loyalty, and the brilliance lies in how it's framed. You're not paying for a service. You're demonstrating belief. The more you give, the more faithful you're told you are. And unlike most scams that vanish once they've collected your cash, religion plays the long game. It doesn't just take your money once, It builds structures to ensure the flow never stops. Weekly offerings, monthly pledges, generational inheritance, all sanctified as holy duty. Even better for the institution, the wealth they accumulate is often tax-free. That means while ordinary people struggle to pay rent or put food on the table, religious organizations buy land, build empires, and grow political influence with virtually no oversight. It's not just spiritual guidance, it's a financial machine, one that extracts resources from the many and consolidates them in the hands of the few, all while convincing you it's an act of virtue. But money is only half the story. To really keep control, religion had to make itself essential, not just to your wallet, but to your conscience. And that's where the most dangerous trick begins, claiming to own morality itself, the monopoly on morality. Every scam works better when it convinces you that without it, you're lost. Religion takes this idea to the extreme by claiming to be the source of morality itself. You've heard the line, "Without God, there's no right or wrong." It's one of the most powerful narratives ever sold. Because if people believe that morality comes only from religion, then leaving it feels like leaving behind your moral compass. Who wants to see themselves as lawless, heartless, or corrupt? But here's the truth. Compassion, justice, and cooperation existed long before organized religion. In fact, today, some of the most secular societies on earth, places with little religious influence, rank among the most peaceful, fair, and ethical in the world. Yet religion continues to present itself as morality's landlord, as if honesty, kindness, or love were inventions of holy books. It's the equivalent of a con artist claiming they invented honesty, so you have to trust them, no matter what. This monopoly trick works because it ties morality not to reason, empathy, or human progress, but to divine authority. Which means questioning religious leaders isn't just disagreement, it's painted as rebellion against morality itself. And once you give a system the right to define good and evil, you hand it ultimate power. Because who dares challenge the very thing that decides what's right? But claiming morality wasn't enough. To protect the scam, religion needed to control not just behavior, but knowledge itself. And that's where the censorship begins. Control of information. No scam lasts long if people have access to too much truth. That's why one of religion's oldest survival strategies has always been controlling information. For centuries, religious authorities decided which books could be read, which stories could be told, and which questions were even safe to ask. Doubters weren't just wrong. They were branded heretics, exiled, tortured, or worse. Entire libraries were burned not because the ideas inside were false, but because they threatened the monopoly on belief. Even today, in some parts of the world, challenging religious dogma can land you in prison or worse. Think about that. In the 21st century, simply asking, "What if this isn't true?" is still treated like a crime. That's not the truth defending itself. That's power silencing opposition. And censorship doesn't always need chains or flames. Sometimes it's more subtle. Sermons, schools, and families teach believers that questioning faith is dangerous, sinful, or shameful. So instead of outside critics shutting you down, the fear of doubt shuts you down from within. This monopoly on truth is the lifeblood of the scam. Because if people freely compared religion's promises against evidence, history, or reason, the illusion would crumble. Control the narrative, though, and you control reality itself. But here's the clever twist. When cracks in the story do appear, when science exposes false claims, religion doesn't collapse. It pivots. And that trick might be its smartest move yet, the endless adaptation trick. Most scams collapse the moment they're exposed. Fake medicine gets banned. Ponzi schemes implode when payouts stop. But religion has a unique weapon. It adapts. Whenever science disproves a claim, whether it's about the age of the earth, the movement of the planets, or the origin of life, religion rarely admits defeat. Instead, it shifts the meaning. Suddenly, the verses were symbolic all along. The miracle was metaphor. The story was never meant to be taken literally. This trick works because it lets believers keep their faith without confronting the fact that the system was wrong. It's a moving target. No matter how much evidence piles up, the goalposts slide just far enough to keep the scam alive. Think of it like a magician changing the rules mid-show. When one illusion is spoiled, he distracts you with another, insisting that was the real trick all along. The audience walks away feeling like the magic is still intact. And the adaptability doesn't stop at science. As cultures change, religion rebrands. Practices once defended as sacred, like slavery, segregation, or denying women rights, get quietly rewritten or abandoned once society pushes back hard enough. It's not progress from within, it's survival by camouflage. This plasticity keeps religion from shattering under pressure, but it also reveals something crucial. If the truth really were eternal, why would it need constant rewriting? Still, doctrine alone isn't enough to hold people. Belief needs more than words, it needs spectacle, and that's where religion turns theater into authority. Authority theater. Words can persuade, but spectacle can overwhelm. Religion has always understood this. That's why it wraps its message in theater, grand architecture, ornate robes, solemn rituals, and titles that elevate leaders above ordinary people. Step into a cathedral, mosque, or temple, and you're immediately hit with soaring ceilings, stained glass, music echoing through stone. It feels otherworldly by design. The message is clear. This place is not like the rest of the world, so the people who control it must not be like the rest of us. And when leaders dress in elaborate garments, speak in rehearsed tones, and perform rituals with precision, it creates an aura of authority. The performance signals that these aren't just humans delivering opinions. They're chosen, set apart, even divine. It's a powerful psychological effect. People are less likely to challenge someone who looks holy, speaks with gravity, and stands beneath symbols of eternity. Questioning them doesn't feel like arguing with a person, it feels like rebelling against the divine itself. That's the brilliance of authority theater. It turns ordinary men into untouchable representatives of heaven. The illusion is so strong that people hand over trust automatically. But even spectacle has its limits. You can impress adults, but if you want lifelong loyalty, you have to start much earlier. And that's why religion's next move is its most effective of all, getting to children before they can ever question. Childhood conditioning. If you want a belief to stick for life, don't wait until someone is grown. Start when they're a child. Religion has mastered this strategy. From the very beginning, kids are immersed in stories, songs, prayers, and rituals. These aren't presented as ideas to consider, they're packaged as unquestionable truth. And because children are wired to trust authority and absorb repetition, the message sinks deep before critical thinking even has a chance to develop. By the time that child reaches adulthood, the beliefs don't feel like something they chose. They feel like part of who they are. Questioning them isn't just uncomfortable, it feels like betraying their family, their community, even themselves. That's why leaving religion is often harder than leaving a toxic job or a bad relationship. Doubt isn't just about ideas, it's about identity. And when identity is wrapped in rituals, family gatherings, and traditions, breaking away feels like ripping out a piece of your own life. This early indoctrination is why the scam sustains itself across centuries. Every generation of believers naturally raises the next, embedding the same stories and fears. And the cycle continues, not because the evidence grows stronger, but because the conditioning grows deeper. But here's the kicker. Once people are raised in the system, they don't just stay loyal. Many of them become its fiercest defenders. And that's the next layer of the scam, getting victims to protect it themselves, self-policing and exclusivity. The most effective scam isn't the one that guards itself. It's the one that convinces its victims to guard it for free. Religion has perfected this move. Believers aren't just taught to follow the faith, they're taught to defend it. Criticism of doctrine is framed as an attack on their family, their community, and even their very soul. That's why so many will rush to protect the institution that exploits them, silencing doubt before it spreads. It's the same psychological trap seen in financial scams. Victims who've lost everything sometimes refuse to admit they were deceived. Why? Because the truth would mean accepting that their trust and their identity was built on lies. Defending the scam feels safer than facing the betrayal. Religion adds another layer of protection through exclusivity. Many traditions teach that they alone hold the truth, while everyone else is deceived. This us versus them mindset doesn't just create loyalty, It creates division. Outsiders are enemies. Other faiths are false. This divide and conquer approach prevents believers from uniting against the larger system, even though most religions operate on the same evidence-free foundations. By turning followers into enforcers and rivals into threats, religion ensures its survival without lifting a finger. It doesn't just sell belief, it sells identity and allegiance, strong enough to fight off anyone who questions it. But the influence doesn't end with individuals. Once religion secures loyalty, it scales that power into politics, and that's where the scam reaches its highest stakes. Power, politics, and the playbook's future. Scams usually stop at wallets. Religion, though, went further. It stepped into politics. By declaring that laws and leaders are chosen or approved by God, religion built one of the most powerful shields against accountability in history. Think about it. If a ruler claims divine backing, opposing them isn't framed as a political disagreement, it's framed as rebellion against heaven itself. That's why kings, emperors, and even modern politicians drape themselves in religious language. It doesn't matter how corrupt they are, holiness becomes their armor. And this strategy still works. Public ceremonies open with prayers. Oaths are sworn on holy books. Politicians end speeches with, "God bless." These cues make religion feel inseparable from civic life, even for people who don't believe. When faith is embedded into law, tradition, and identity, questioning it feels like questioning the very structure of society. That's how the scam survives the modern age. Even when people stop going to church, its influence lingers. In the holidays they celebrate, in the moral assumptions they never question, in the cultural norms passed down for centuries. And here's the twist. The future of this playbook doesn't look weaker. Religion has already proven it can rebrand, whether as spiritual but not religious, or by borrowing the language of science and self-help, it adapts to survive. But now that we've exposed the tactics, fear, exclusivity, money, morality, spectacle, and politics, the question is, how do you resist a scam this deeply woven into human history? So what makes religion the longest-running scam in human history? It isn't just the promises of the afterlife, or the endless demands for loyalty and money. It's the way it burrows into every corner of human life, our fears, our hopes, our morals, our politics, even our families, and makes itself feel untouchable. A normal scam collapses once it's exposed. But religion built safeguards. Indoctrination in childhood, theater that makes leaders look divine, fear that punishes doubt, and exclusivity that divides people into rival camps. And by rebranding whenever the truth catches up, it's managed to survive for thousands of years. But here's the benefit. Once you can see the playbook, you can't unsee it. You recognize the fear tactics, the money framing, the appeals to authority. You understand that morality and meaning exist outside of dogma, and that awareness is the first step toward freedom, mental, emotional, and even financial. Now the real challenge is this. If religion is the original scam, how do its modern offspring, cults, televangelists, political movements, use the same tricks today? That's exactly what I'll be exposing in my next video. You won't want to miss it. If this opened your eyes, do two things right now. Hit subscribe, and share this with someone who's still caught in the web. The more people recognize the scam, the harder it becomes to keep it running. Religion has lasted this long by staying unchallenged. Let's start challenging it, together.